Welcome to another deep dive. I want you to just make yourself comfortable. If you're listening to this late at night in a dark room, perfect.
That is exactly the right environment for this one.
It really is. Let the outside world fade away for a moment because today we are traveling somewhere completely immersive. I want you to picture a sprawling ancient city, a place gripped by heavy shadows, buried secrets, and the kind of high-stakes tension where a single misplaced whisper could literally cost you your life.
It's the perfect atmospheric setup for what we're about to cover. You can almost feel the heat of the city pressing in on you, the dust in the air.
Okay, let's unpack this. Today we're pulling from Chapter 18 of the thrilling narrative, Chasing Death, the Sacred Fire. And our mission for this deep dive is to unravel a gripping tale of political intrigue, a fiercely guarded secret faith, and a daring, against all odds, rescue mission.
And the sheer cinematic quality of this chapter is just incredible. Every single scene feels meticulously constructed to draw you in and keep you completely on the edge of your seat.
What we're really exploring here is the volatile intersection of absolute political power, terrifying religious fervor, and the incredible risks one person is willing to take for their deepest moral convictions. We're going to watch the tension build, layer upon layer, toward a massive, emotionally resonant climax.
The atmosphere is incredibly heavy right from the start, and the stakes just couldn't be higher for our protagonist.
Let's start right there with our protagonist, Zayn. Zayn is a man living an incredibly dangerous dual reality. On the surface, he's at the absolute height of his power. He serves as the minister of the court in the grand city of Elam.
Right, he's at the very top of the hierarchy.
Exactly. But beyond that administrative role, King Hannibal has entrusted him with a deeply sacred duty. Zayn is the personal chronicler of Hannibal's reign. Every night, as the shadows stretch across the palace walls, Zayn sits alone, writing the official history of the empire in careful, measured prose.
And for you listening, it's really helpful to ground this setting. While this is a fictionalized narrative, Elam and King Hannibal represent massive, real-world, ancient archetypes. We're talking about the scale of the great Mesopotamian and North African empires combined.
A truly massive scale.
Yes. Zayn's position gives him an unparalleled panoramic view of this empire's inner workings. He literally has the king's ear. King Hannibal reads Zayn's accounts each morning with quiet satisfaction. So Zayn is insulated by his usefulness and his towering intellect, but his outward success masks a profound, crushing internal isolation.
Because Elam is a city of intense, overwhelming contrasts. We're dropped into a place of strange and diverse devotions. The citizens worship a whole array of idols fashioned after beasts.
Very primal deities.
Right, we're talking about entire tribes offering prayers to rhinoceroses, kneeling before idols of massive bulls, worshiping serpents, and seeking the favor of crocodiles. But Zayn partakes in absolutely none of it.
Not a single ritual.
He harbors a secret, monotheistic faith. He believes in a single creator whose essence cannot be captured in stone or wood. Every night, before he sleeps, he raises his hands to the stars and whispers his prayers in total secrecy.
What's fascinating here is how Zayn operates essentially as a deep cover intelligence asset, but for his own soul, he's hiding in plain sight. Think about historical examples of crypto-religions, like the conversos in Spain. People who had to publicly perform the rituals of the dominant power while desperately holding on to their true beliefs in the dark.
It's a terrifying way to live.
It really is. Zayn is a man of profound, unshakable convictions, surviving at the very center of an empire whose religious practices stand completely opposed to everything he believes. The psychological toll of maintaining that facade day in and day out must be absolutely staggering.
And to understand the physical danger of that secret, you have to visualize the religious epicenter of Elam. At the heart of the city stands the colossal temple of the god Baal. It's a terrifyingly grand structure.
Very oppressive architecture.
Picture a massive forest of marble pillars stretching in every direction, casting cold, overlapping bars of shadow across the floor. In the center of this sprawling hall is a white marble platform, but it's stained permanently dark from the blood of countless animal sacrifices.
Right, layers and layers of it.
During these rituals, the high priest himself wields the axe, and beside the towering, grotesque idol of Baal, there's a wide furnace roaring with a perpetual fire, where the slaughtered animals are cast into the flames.
It's architecture designed to make the individual feel completely powerless. It's dark, heavy, and imposing. And Zayn is standing right in the middle of it all, constantly playing a part.
While Zayn is busy navigating this spiritual minefield, the geopolitical chessboard is rapidly shifting beneath his feet. King Hannibal's power is at its absolute zenith. He's expanded his African dominion immensely, and now he has his sights set on conquering Nubia, a kingdom located northeast of Egypt.
Which, historically speaking, is a massive, almost arrogant risk. Nubia represents a formidable kingdom, and in this narrative, it's ruled by a queen who has the heavy backing of the monarchs of Persia and Babylon.
A serious alliance.
Exactly. But Hannibal is completely unmoved by the geopolitical risks. His ambition isn't just large, it's absolute. He wants to swallow the known world.
So Hannibal summons his most trusted minister. He tells Zayn, "Your espionage in Egypt paved the way for our victory there. Now I want you to travel to Nubia and serve as our eyes and ears. I need you to spy for me again."
And this is where we get a crucial piece of character detail.
Yes, Zayn takes a massive risk and chooses radical honesty here. He tells the emperor that he only spied against Egypt because the pharaoh's house murdered his parents. He was a man seeking vengeance against a specific lineage. But he has absolutely no quarrel with Nubia.
It's a masterclass in delicate, high-stakes negotiation. Zayn pushes back, but Hannibal presses him. He essentially asks, "Will you not perform this service for your king?"
Which is a veiled threat.
Completely. Zayn knows a flat refusal to an absolute monarch isn't just insubordination, it's a death sentence. So he softens his stance and agrees to go when the time comes. Hannibal is delighted and orders the preparations to begin.
But Zayn has a hidden motive. Once he reaches Nubia, he plans to use the diplomatic mission to vanish entirely. He wants to disappear quietly into the ether and leave Hannibal's service forever. He finally sees his out.
A chance at freedom.
Before he can execute this escape plan, the inciting incident of our story strikes. The skies over Elam turn to brass.
A brutal, unforgiving drought descends on the land. And we aren't just talking about a dry season. The rains completely fail. Crops wither into dust overnight.
The royal storehouses attempt to distribute grain, but those reserves dry up terrifyingly fast. Famine tightens its grip. People begin to perish from hunger in the streets, and a deep, visceral chaos ripples through the city.
The atmosphere goes from grand and imperial to desperate and feral in a matter of days.
In response to the panic, the high priest of Baal sacrifices thousands of animals to the god, but the drought persists. The sky remains empty. And this is where the story takes a horrifying turn. The high priest makes a grim proclamation. Baal is no longer satisfied with the blood of beasts. To lift the famine, the god demands a human sacrifice, specifically a young girl.
And King Hannibal, desperate to save his starving, rioting kingdom, actually sanctions the horrific act.
This is the moment the tension truly locks in.
And if we look at the sociology of this, it's a terrifyingly classic playbook. You see this throughout history. When a society experiences a natural disaster or an inexplicable crisis, extreme factions will almost always weaponize that public panic to consolidate power. The exact punishments that the populace would never accept during peacetime.
The priests comb the land and select their victim, the innocent daughter of a poor farmer.
The power dynamics are just completely tilted against them.
The scene where they take her is completely heart-wrenching. When the farmer learns his child has been chosen, he's seized by a bone-deep terror. The girl goes totally pale with fright. The father throws himself at the high priest's feet, sobbing, begging for mercy. He literally offers his own life in exchange for his daughter's.
And the high priest's reaction is just pure, concentrated cruelty. He sneers at the old man, strikes him brutally across the head, and barks that the god demands the daughter, no one else.
It's sickening.
But he doesn't stop there. He tells the farmer that simply by pleading for her life, he's committed a sin against Bel. And to wash away that sin, he finds the destitute farmer 1,000 silver coins.
When the farmer says he has no wealth to give, the priest orders his men to strip the meager hut of every single vessel and belonging. They drag the screaming girl away, and when the father tries to intervene, the priests beat him until he's unconscious and bloodied on the ground. They haul the girl away in a chariot to the temple. It's an absolute nightmare.
It really highlights how institutions use fear not just for religious control, but for economic extraction. When word of this reaches Zayn, a profound grief settles over him. He makes a silent, ironclad vow that he will not allow this girl to die.
But we have to understand how incredibly difficult this will be. This is now a sacred religious matter. In times of crisis, the king and the populace stand firmly behind the priesthood. No one dares to object. The priests announce that on the night of the full moon she'll be slaughtered and cast into the sacred fire.
It's an impossible situation.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Zayn decides to make a remarkably bold move. He bypasses the priests and goes straight to the top. He appeals directly to King Hannibal.
Which is incredibly risky.
Right. Keep in mind, Hannibal's every waking thought is consumed by the famine, and sheer desperation drove him to sanction this murder in the first place. Zayn asks the emperor to issue a royal decree halting the sacrifice. Hannibal is bewildered. He asks Zayn if he actually wants the famine to continue and destroy them all.
And Zayn's response here is incredibly cheeky, but also incredibly dangerous. He replies that he can't help thinking that if a priest were sacrificed in place of a farmer's child, the god would be far more pleased.
Isn't that a wildly reckless move for someone who's supposed to be this master of hiding in plain sight? Why risk his entire deep-cover life just to make a sarcastic comment to the king?
It absolutely is reckless. It's almost suicidal. But I think that's the point. It shows Zayn's breaking point. He's watched the corruption for years. But seeing a child marked for death while the priests line their pockets pushes his moral outrage past his sense of self-preservation.
And you snaps.
Yes. Hannibal's expression immediately darkens. He warns Zayn that he's severely overstepping his bounds and forbids him from ever speaking such words again. He reminds Zayn that priests are untouchable, the beloved of the gods. He accuses Zayn of trying to spark a citywide revolt.
Which brings us to a harsh realization. Hannibal might be the ruler of a vast dominion, but inside the walls of Elam during a famine, the high priest's word is ultimate law. Zayn realizes right then that reason will not prevail. He bows, feigns complete submission, and accepts that he has to take matters into his own hands.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Zayn realizes he has to switch tactics. He steps out of the role of the diplomat and into the role of a shadow operator.
Exactly.
As the night of the full moon approaches, Zayn builds a flawless cover story. He uses his dual status as a minister and a court physician. He claims he needs to medically examine the girl to ensure she's healthy enough for the sacrifice, arguing that Baal would surely reject an ailing, imperfect offering. Faced with a royal permit and Zayn's undeniable logic, the high priest is forced to comply.
The pacing here slows down into this incredibly suspenseful crawl. Zayn and the high priest descend a narrow flight of stairs into a dark, damp cellar hidden deep beneath the priest's private quarters. The only light comes from a guttering torch. Zayn finds the girl huddled in a corner.
The atmosphere is just suffocating.
When Zayn finds her, she's completely drained of color, just paralyzed by a terror that goes way beyond physical illness.
Zayn goes through the motions of checking her pulse, playing the part of the physician, but his eyes are frantically scanning the room for an escape route. He realizes with a sinking dread that there's no easy way out. Getting her out of this fortress is going to be nearly impossible.
But when the high priest steps outside the room for just a moment, Zayn leans in. He whispers to her, "Do not lose heart. I will get you out of here. Be ready the night after tomorrow."
But the psychology of this moment is brutal. The girl is so paralyzed by fear, her expression doesn't even change. It's a form of learned helplessness. The system is so absolute, the cruelty so normalized, that she can't bring herself to believe that anything in the world could possibly save her.
Zayn holds her gaze, steady and reassuring, and then leaves. From there, he starts setting the board for a massive high-stakes heist. He secures 2 swift Arabian horses and posts his loyal Ethiopian servant Elam in a dark olive grove behind the temple. He also secures a royal travel permit, claiming he has an urgent need to leave the city to attend to a dying friend.
And then the night of the full moon arrives. The sensory details here are fantastic for building that heavy atmosphere.
They really are.
The Temple of Baal is frantic with preparation. The sacrificial altar is washed 4 times with milk. Saffron and sandalwood are burning in the sacred fires, filling the air with heavy, blinding smoke. The giant marble pillars are draped with green branches of olive and banana. Dawn is approaching fast. The sacrifice is imminent.
Zayn is pacing his room, feeling the crushing weight of what he's about to do. As the night deepens, he puts on the robes of temple priest. He conceals a razor-sharp dagger beneath his cloak. He approaches the western gate of the temple complex. Adopting the unhurried, calm bearing of an attendant, he offers the guard a customary greeting. It's a pure, unadulterated bluff, and it works perfectly. The guard pulls the heavy door open.
And now Zayn is inside the belly of the beast. He moves like a ghost through the shadows between those overlapping marble pillars. The temple is loud with the low, droning chants of busy priests scrubbing the altar by torchlight.
Zayn keeps his head bowed in practiced piety and slips into the corridor leading to the high priest's private quarters. He pushes the door open and finds his target. The high priest is completely alone, bent over an open chest, rummaging through it.
That mundane detail, rummaging through a chest right before such a profound moment of violence, really grounds the scene.
The priest looks up at the sound of footsteps, but before he can even draw a breath to scream for help, Zayn crosses the room in two massive strides and drives his dagger straight through the man's heart.
Just instant.
The high priest crumples to the floor without a single sound. It's fast, brutal, completely silent.
Zayn doesn't waste a single second. He strips the outer robes from the dead priest's body, throws them over his arm, bolts the door from the inside, and hurries down the stone stairs to the cellar. He finds the girl sitting there in her sacrificial garments, her eyes wide and hollow with absolute despair.
He tells her to quickly take off those clothes and put on the priest's robes. She's frozen, hesitating. Zayn has to firmly tell her, for God's sake, move, there's no time. She changes into the flowing robes. Zayn leans in close and gives her instructions. Stay directly behind me. Don't make a sound. Whatever you see, whatever happens, not a single sound.
They climb back up to the high priest's room. The girl naturally gasps when she sees the dead body bleeding out on the floor, but Zayn presses a hand to her back and physically forces her to keep moving. He unbolts the door, and they step out into the massive temple courtyard.
And this is where the psychological terror really peaks. The courtyard is absolutely crowded with priests making final preparations for the dawn ritual. Zayn places a torch in the girl's hand. Together, they have to walk slowly, with deliberate, unhurried steps right through the middle of the throng. We learn that Zayn's heart is hammering against his ribs, but he forces his face to hold a mask of absolute chilling calm.
It's a brilliant execution of hiding in plain sight. To anyone watching through the smoke and the shadows, they just look like two priests completely absorbed in the sacred work of the night.
They walk right past the very people who are preparing to burn the girl alive. They pass through the great marble entrance, step out into the cool night air, and keep a steady pace until they reach a branching path. Only then does Zayn grab her hand and sprint into the cover of the trees.
The release of tension there is palpable.
In the depths of the olive grove, they find Elam waiting with the horses. Elam is flooded with relief. Zayn helps the girl onto a saddle, mounts his own horse, and then turns to his servant. This is a deeply emotional, quiet moment amidst the chaos. Zayn tells Elam that he's done him a great kindness, one he'll carry always. And right there, Zayn frees him. He tells Elam he's a free man and hands over a deed gifting him his entire estate and all the wealth inside it.
Elam bows his head, honors his master, and prays for his protection. This raises an important question about Zayn's character. It highlights that Zayn isn't just saving the girl, he's actively dismantling the unjust power structures around him. He's ensuring that those who are loyal and good are rewarded, even as he intentionally burns his own privileged life to the ground.
Zayn leads the girl through the dark, winding forest paths, staying completely off the main roads, cutting through fields until they finally reach the eastern gate of the city. And waiting there in the shadows is the girl's father. When the old man sees his daughter, alive and completely unharmed, he just breaks down and weeps. He pulls her from the saddle and holds her like he'll never let go.
But they still have one final terrifying hurdle: the gatekeeper.
Zayn composes himself, channels that authority of a minister one last time, and presents that royal travel permit he secured earlier. He smoothly explains he's taking his assistants to attend a dying patient beyond the walls. The guard checks the king's seal, recognizes its absolute authority, and swings the heavy iron gates open.
They cross the threshold.
Within moments, all three of them break into a full gallop. The horses' hooves are swallowing the ground, the dark, oppressive city of Elam falling away behind them, just as the first pale light of dawn begins to break over the horizon. It's an incredibly triumphant cinematic escape.
It leaves you entirely breathless. The transition from the claustrophobia of the cellar to the open expanse of the dawn is just incredibly well executed.
We really need to take a breath after that narrative. To summarize this incredible journey, Zayn went from being a comfortable, highly respected minister of the court, a man who had the emperor's ear and a life of extreme privilege, to becoming an assassin and a fugitive. He sacrificed his entire life, his wealth, his position, his safety, all to save one single innocent life from a deeply corrupt system.
It's a profound transformation. He stops writing history and finally starts shaping it.
So, what does this all mean for you listening? I want you to reflect for a moment on the immense courage required to do what Zayn did, to stand up to an entire society's accepted brutality. When the law of the land and the voice of the divine both demand an atrocity, maintaining your own moral compass in the dark requires an almost unimaginable strength. It's easy to be moral when it's convenient. It's something else entirely when it costs you everything.
Exactly. This story reminds us that true knowledge, brilliant intellect, and massive political power are ultimately completely meaningless unless they're applied with humanity. Zayn's brilliance wasn't just in his elegant prose as a chronicler. His true brilliance was in how he weaponized his intellect, his cover stories, and his royal access to completely dismantle an unjust execution from the inside out.
It's an unforgettable sequence of events. But as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a lingering, provocative thought to mull over. Zayn has successfully escaped the walls of Elam. He saved the girl. But he's left behind the murdered body of the untouchable high priest, and he's deeply personally betrayed Emperor Hannibal.
The fallout is going to be massive.
With Hannibal's vast armies at his disposal and the impending massive war with Nubia looming on the horizon, will Zayn's initial espionage cover story buy him the precious time he needs to vanish completely? Or has his righteous act of rebellion just sparked a relentless imperial manhunt that will follow him to the very ends of the earth? Something to think about as you sit in the dark. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.